What's your ask your husband's permission story? Oh my god, your hormonal contraception story is brutal. Not quite as bad. But when I bought my current car, I made the mistake of mentioning I had a male partner. I had gone car shopping with my male best friend, who they assumed was my partner. And I had corrected them by being like, oh no, my boyfriend is at home or something. After that, one car salesman I dealt with asked me about 4 times to get my boyfriend's permission. The first time he mentioned it, I brushed it off by clarifying that I was buying this car with my money, not my so. But he kept bringing it up. Have you asked your boyfriend about this? Do you know what your boyfriend wants? And every time I told him some variation of, my boyfriend is not involved. This isn't his money. He does not care about cars. Finally, the last time he was like, well, why don't you come back with your boyfriend? I almost lost it. I didn't get mad or yell or anything, but I just stared at him and I was like, dude, for the last time, my boyfriend is not a part of this decision. He doesn't give a rip about cars. He's not paying for this car. And you are dealing with me, not my boyfriend. Needless to say, I ended up buying a car elsewhere. I was at a routine checkup and my husband at the time came along. They asked what medications I was on and I verbally listed birth control. The doctor switched his gaze to my ex and asked if he wanted kids. My ex said yes, and the doctor asked if he'd like to talk about easing me off birth control so I could have kids. My ex said yeah, sure. I had to tell the doctor that I was still in the room and didn't want to ease off my birth control, considering we were in marriage counseling for my ex cheating a week after the marriage he insisted on. The doctor said we obviously needed to talk and left us to talk. I set my ex straight and ended up not getting off birth control, but instead switching to an IUD. A lot of men have proudly declared to me that they would never let their woman be a bartender. Men ask me all the time what my boyfriend thinks about it. He likes that I have a job. My favorite is when a guy followed that with, because I know the messed up things I say to women when I'm drunk. I was looking into donating my eggs years ago. The clinic wouldn't even see me without my partner present. Not even for a general information session. It was also a requirement that he signed a form giving his consent for me to proceed with any discussions. And I was given zero autonomy. The same clinic, however, accepted semen samples from any male at any time with no partner involvement whatsoever. And the icing on the cake, they paid men for their samples while women weren't allowed to profit from their eggs. My wife studies everything we buy. Example, we just got new refrigerator. She has read to the end of the internet on brands, features, etc. She knows her it and honestly is smarter than me. And I'm happy for her to take the lead asking questions. And X200B. I get a kick when sales guys are trying to talk to me and not her. Dude, you are ducking up, not including her. When I first started going to my stylist, I wanted my long hair cut into a short bob. She asked if my husband was okay with it. She's had so's come in and yell at her for cutting hair off. Holy hell. I assured her that my husband has zero say in how I choose to wear my hair. I went out with my ex to an ice cream dessert parlor. I'm a pretty small size. Gym regularly. etc. And I was starving and wanted a damn waffle. Ordered the most ridiculous thing I could find on the menu. Server looked at my ex and went, are you okay with her ordering that DUDE? I disclosed my bisexuality at a routine sexual health checkup. To which the nurse replied, what does your boyfriend think of that? I was single at the time. She then proceeded to lecture me that if I wasn't so promiscuous, I've had sex with a total of 3 people in my entire life, I wouldn't need to be there. And that my future boyfriend wouldn't like that I've been with so many people. I didn't manage to get a word in during this entire 3-minute tirade. I was at a computer repair shop for my laptop. My partner, male, came with. He is way more tetchy than me, so I figured he could tell if I was being ripped off just in case. But he stayed nearer to the back of the store looking at computers. Guess who the computer store guy talked to? Was it the woman who was actually speaking to, standing right in front of his counter and holding the laptop she wanted fixed? Nope, he was basically yelling across the store to my partner. I would ask a question. He would yell the answer to my boyfriend. And then later that week when the computer guy messed up and we went in to speak to him, he had the nerve to tell my boyfriend I was being emotional when I called him out for shady business practices. Their store closed down, so I win. When I was being promoted from intern to full-time at my current job, my boss asked me if I was sure my husband was okay with this. It was crazy to me to think, 1, that my husband would ever be mad at me for getting a full-time job, and 2, why it was a prerequisite in her mind that I'd get his permission. This didn't happen to me, but happened to my sister and her wife when they moved from Tennessee to Maryland about 10 years ago. They used a local Tennessee moving company to pack up and move their stuff. When they got to Maryland, they found that a bunch of stuff had been pretty decently damaged, and that it was obvious their belongings hadn't been packed right by the movers. So my sister called the company to complain and see if they could get a small amount knocked off their bill for the damages. The owner refused to give her any sort of discount and asked to speak to her husband because, as he said, women are just not rational about money. My sister responded, "Excuse me? I don't have a husband, I have a wife. And if you'd like to speak to her, that's fine. But she'll say the same thing I'm saying." The owner then asked her if she was a Christian. At which point my sister hung up, called the Better Business Bureau, and they compensated her and her wife for the damages. I'm trying to get sterilized and I've been asked this outright at least 4 times. I'm not even dating anyone. Yet this hypothetical man has more say in my reproductive autonomy than I do. One doctor even said they would consider it only after I got married. It's like I have to be considered someone's property first, because it's only acceptable to take away my fertility when my owner decides that they won't use it. It's 2019. What is this? Not owning my body. But I inherited a house from my family and have been the one who has been most involved with the renovations. The other day I was asking a large company about a quote on new windows and the female representative asked me when my husband would be home as well for them to come by and give us a quote. I told her that he is fine with me making the decision on renovations. So anytime I'm off work is okay, and she legit refused to make an appointment with just me there. She said they will only come out if he is available at the same time. I was in disbelief and still am. When I got my first tattoo, everyone in my family would say things like, "What if your future husband doesn't like tattoos? Men don't like tattoos and piercings. You're never going to find a man that finds you beautiful. You're ruining yourself." It was so gross. Recently, my mortgage company called me several times in a row, and when I finally answered, the rep said, "Why don't you talk to the husband and call us back?" I said, "Why would I hang up and call back?" He said, "Well, I'm not the person who handles this type of account, so why don't you talk to your husband and have him call us back?" Why would I tell my husband, who knows nothing about refinancing, that you're not the person to talk to, and then have him, who knows nothing about refinancing, call you back, who can't help us with the mortgage I set up? I guess I could transfer you right now. Yes, you can. When I was new at a previous job, some of the older employees were chatting with me and asking about my life. One of them asked if I had kids or wanted them. I said no to both. And she smiled and said, "Oh, but does your husband want kids? That's what the deciding factor is," and winked. I think she was trying to be playful or weirdly sexy. But still. Gross. I was also not married at the time, but I was still a lesbian. Edit, because I remember a lighter one that happens pretty routinely. I make soap and run a soap making business as a side job hobby. Sometimes when I post my extra large soap batches, people will ask how I convince my husband to let me spend that much money on soaping equipment and material. My wife trusts me to buy my hobby products and use my profit to fund it. Haha. I recently had a neighbor come knock on my door. holding a broken metal bracket. UHH. Hi. Is your husband home? No. I'm not married. Oh. UHH. Is your boyfriend or the man of the house here? I have a boyfriend and a 6'5" son. Agitated no. This is my house. I pay the bills here. Do they have a welder I can borrow? FFS dude. Why couldn't you just ask that in the first place? Edit. Formatting. On mobile. Sorry. When I first moved to Chicago, I had an Uber driver who was making small talk with me. And after I mentioned that I had moved from Kentucky only like a week prior, he goes, all the way from Kentucky? Your boyfriend let you do that? Baffling because I had not mentioned a boyfriend and did not have one. But I still said my boyfriend doesn't let or not let me do anything.